Hello and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser.
I'm Lorcan.
And Dwane's muted. But together, we are modeling for advantage. Dwane's technical issues seem to have returned, but it is a beautiful shot of him there with his lips pursed, ready to give a kiss to any and all of you.
He'll come back in like 5 minutes going, modeling for advantage. Oh.
Absolutely. Lorcan, you're new here, so why don't you tell the lovely people at home who you are and what you're doing and why you're wearing a Catalyst t-shirt?
So my name's Lorcan Nagel. I do a lot of things for Catalyst Game Labs, basically. I am a community moderator. I am a playtester. I write for BattleTech, and perhaps most importantly for this evening, I'm a member of the demo team. I'm going to be running Leviathans at UK Games Expo as part of the Catalyst demo team's organized play section this year. And
there is a picture of a mech behind you. What model is it?
There is. That is a Daishi, or Dire Wolf as the clans call it. It's out of the blueprint set that's only just come out recently. We can just about see it. I was trying to snazz up the house a little bit and make it a bit more mech-centric, but I think I should have gone with one of the posters instead. Would have been a bit more visible.
The black and white thing. All right, let's catch up with who we have got here then. Oh, Dwane's back. Dwane, tell them who you are. They already know.
Say modeling for advantage now.
While the internet is still working, it's
Oh, no, he's cursed. All right, I'll go through the comments. Gary Saffron 69 going to catch us later, but he will be at the expo on Friday. So we're going to talk about expo a bit later. Alid is working on his Battlefront Japanese, which I think he was kind enough to buy from us, so I'm very delighted about that. Lazy Pirate Painting is here. Subcommandante, nice to see steady improvement on the Siocast with the latest unboxing. Yeah, I mean, both James and Woolly Mike have handled some of the newer formula Siocast coming out of Warlord, which they call Warlord Resin, but it's all the same stuff, no matter who you buy it from. If you've looked at it in the past and thought this is garbage, it's a lot better now. I can't tell you that every model you ever get is good, but most of the ones I've handled, they're really nice. And they're probably better than a lot of the metals, to be honest. In my opinion, now, the new casts. Dublin Baltec, just here for the Irishmen. Yes, the Irish Brigade are out in force. Nick from Team Clueless Games, evening. Tony Halton. Scotty been lying in about how long it takes to fix the comms breakdown.
Sorry, Absolutely. It's O'Brien this week.
O'Brien, of course. Yeah. Dwane, a salute from Smack Weasel. 28 Mil says hello. CGL, sorry, but you're not a company I will ever support again. Ooh, rip me off a postage on Merck's Kickstarter. Well, there you go. Yeah. And you have to piss off a customer once to lose him, I guess. Yep, we did. He's back. Painting some Africa core tonight. Excellent. And Smack Wiz is working a lot of Alpha Strike terrain. All right, so a couple of things we wanted to talk about tonight. One is we wanted to talk about BattleTech, obviously. John and I have recently, Johnny B, we've been playing a bit of Alpha Strike, and I've been enjoying it, I've got to say. So we'll talk a bit about that. And we're also going to talk about UK Games Expo that's coming up, and potentially Comic-Con. I don't know if any of you are going. So these guys we got here tonight, lads, Lorcan and Dwane, they're like BattleTech pros. So if you have any BattleTech related questions, either about the games, Alpha Strike or Classic, or about the lore, these are probably the best people to answer the questions. So I'm going to start with, from me, a bit of a clarification on, we came across some Lance packs that were Star League mechs, and John's looking at these thinking, I don't even know what these are. So Lorcan, why don't you tell us in the BattleTech universe, what's the Star League and how does that fit in?
So there are 3 Star Leagues over the course of the BattleTech universe.
I'm keeping it simple, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. You always go down a rabbit hole of BattleTech about 20 seconds after you start to explain anything. So the original Star League is sort of if BattleTech is the Wars of Roman Succession in science fiction, the original Star League is the old Roman Empire. It represents the one time where humanity was mostly united in peace. There was prosperity, except for the periphery nations around the outside that were exploited massively. And the Star League fell during the Amara Civil War. And that's kind of the kickoff for the storyline of BattleTech. Is the Amara Civil War happens, the Star League is shattered, General Kerensky leaves with the remains of the Star League army, and the successor states, the member nations of the Star League that survived the Civil War, go to war with each other to become the new First Lord of the Star League. And over the 300 years between like the fall of the Star League and when like the default BattleTech box set is set, you have the first three succession wars, and the first two are apocalyptic. Planets are destroyed. There's billions of casualties. There's, the Kentaris massacre, where House Kurita literally put a planet to the sword. Like they're executing all these people. It's a time of atrocity and massive strikes against the industrial centers of all 5 remaining nations. So there's a huge decline in technology.
And that's quite an old school sci-fi theme, the idea that you can fight yourself back into the Stone Age. We have that phrase, kind of, we're going to bomb them into the Stone Age, right? Yeah,
that's almost literally what happens. Yeah, and it's like they realize what's going on, and they start to institute rules of war. So they stop targeting faster than light starships because they can barely produce enough to keep up with losses from lack of maintenance and scheduled decommissioning and such. They stop using nuclear weapons because they're destroying everything they want to fight over. But it's not it's sort of the unwritten rules of war. Then the clans happen. So General Kerensky led his army off into deep space. And over the next couple of 100 years, while the Innisphere are bombing each other into the Stone Age, the clans get weird. And they turn into a culture of technological barbarians who have massively... their technology doesn't decline the same way the Innisphere does. And so they embrace genetic engineering and eugenics. So they don't, the ruling class of the clans, the warriors, don't have children naturally. They take genetic material and they mix it together and they birth 100 children at a time from a genetic bloodline. And these are called true-born sibling companies, or SIBCOs for short. And then they call true-born. Yeah. So you got true-born, which are the genetically engineered humans, and you got the freeborns, who are people born of natural reproduction. And the clans have it in their head that they will return to the Innisphere when the time is right, and they will reestablish the Star League because they're the descendants of the Star League, and the Innisphere has thrown it away. So in 3050, about 300 years after the fall of the first Star League, they reinvade. Or they come back and they start steamrolling towards Terra, or because they call Earth Terra in the BattleTech universe. And they're stopped short by a battle that leads to a 15-year truce. And before that truce is up, the nations in the Innisphere get their shit together, and they form a second Star League as a military alliance primarily to kick the clans back out of the Innisphere. And it goes well for a couple of years. They managed to defeat the Smoke Jaggers, and they kind of stop there. They don't overextend. And then they go back to fighting amongst each other because the Innisphere hate each other almost as much as they hate the clans. And this leads to the collapse of the Star League, of the second Star League, after a period of more civil wars, and like a bunch of the nations just can't afford to be members anymore. And then there's a whole bunch more stuff happens. We're now in 3151, It is 100 years after the clans have arrived. They finally conquered Terra, and they've now formed their third Star League. And the question is, who's going to join them? So you've got kind of a small band of clans on Terra who control the planet, and they've now got to fight for the Star League that they want to form. And that's where we are kind of in the current storyline. So the Star League is back, maybe.
So what is it? Comstar or Comsat or something?
Comstar was the Star League's communications ministry. When the Star League collapsed, the only thing that the member states could agree on was that this guy Jerome Blake should be made Minister for Communications, and then they all went to war. Jerome Blake took it upon himself to capture Terra, and his idea was Terra would be neutral ground. It would be held in perpetuity for the common good of all humanity. And he also took control of all of the HPGs, the communication system that's used for everyone to talk like faster than light. And they're all neutral ground as well. So you have this network across the entire inner sphere of sacrosanct space. If anyone attacks a Comstar station, Comstar will shut down your communications. You'll lag behind because you have to send your information then by jump ship, which is slower than the HPG. And Comstar get weird. This is a recurring theme in BattleTech, is the factions get insular and get weird. And so they become a church. They're very much not, the Vatican in human history. And so they become this quasi-religious entity who worship technology kind of, sort of. And then they also decide, even though they're neutral, they're going to put their thumb on the scale every now and then to make sure that no one gets more of an advantage over any of the other factions. And as much as the rest of the inner sphere was killing scientists and destroying industrial capacity and everything, Comstar decide they're going to get in on this, and they're selectively killing scientists and destroying research programs and everything like that to make sure that none of the inner sphere nations can get their hands on Star League technology. One of the early storylines in the novels is them attempting to prevent a Star League memory core from getting into the hands of a mercenary group, and they fail. And this is what starts the technological renaissance of the inner sphere. So they have Star League weapons tech by the time the clans return. The problem is the clans have improved on Star League weapons tech. You're muted, Kaiser.
So you have this kind of 3 tiers of technology in the mechs. The stuff, the inner sphere stuff, which we're all familiar with, your catapults, your marauders, your atlases, etc.
Yeah.
So the Star League ones are military grade, improved variants of those, and they're relic technology. Can't make them anymore.
It's called Lost Tech and BattleTech.
Right, but they can't make them anymore. But there are caches of buried military.
By the 3050s, they're regaining the technology, and by the 3150s, they have it all.
Right. Okay. But the Star League, the clanners have gone beyond that. When they left beyond the rim or whatever, they developed new technologies and they come back with Okay. Interesting stuff. So that's clarified a bit for me. Welcome back, Dwane.
Hello. How's the sound?
Let's hope you're joining us.
Sounding
so
good.
I was talking to Lorcan a bit before the show. Johnny B and I played a little bit of Alpha Strike recently. Really enjoyed it. I said before, it's not news to anybody here. I don't particularly like kind of what I tend to call nadgery games, which are really, really detailed and involved. And BattleTech is all of that. And I know a lot of people want that. Mm-hmm. I really struggle to find tactics in a thing where you got one model.
You'd be surprised.
Well, indeed. And counting movement points and so forth. So we tried out Alpha Strike because he's bought all the sets. And as I say, really enjoyed it. And what I did like about it is in classic BattleTech, clan mechs are just really powerful and really expensive points, or battle value or whatever it's called now, that you're just not going to see them in a game where you've got 8 or 10 mechs. I think in the box you get 2 lances versus the 1 clan. What are the clan formations called? They're not called lances. It's something else.
Stars.
Yeah. A star. 5 of them, and it was a fairly well balanced game. I had some smaller number of really high powered mechs. The problem we ran into was when we had the game where the mission where you have to collect objectives and get off the table, and that bloody dasher just meant that it was not a game. I can run pretty much the length of the table, grab it, and then run off, and you're not going to kill me in that time. And what I liked about it, we played it first. The impression you get when reading the book is you just roll the dice, and if you hit, you do all this damage. But as we looked at it, it said, actually, it says here there's an option to roll for each piece of damage. So it's not quite so swingy.
Oh, Alpha Strike, yeah.
On Alpha Strike, because most of the mechs are doing 3 or 4 damage anyway. So it's not a lot of dice that you're rolling. So we moved to that, and that really improved the game quite a lot.
Yeah,
that's
Alpha AS350 is the main competitive format. It's like a fan done one, and you default to rolling 2d6 for every damage point in that. Mm-hmm. And it works really well. Like I find if you're playing Alpha Strike with the single attack roll, you tend to just shoot a mech until it's dead. And you just go like, I'm going to hit with that mech, I'm going to hit that mech, I'm going to hit with that mech, I'm going to hit with that tank. Okay, you're gone. Let's move on to the next target. Right. But with multiple attack rolls, you're not guaranteeing doing 4 damage or 6 damage if you hit. You're doing anywhere from 0 to 4 or to 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to play it a little bit safer. Damage units tend to stay around for a turn or 2 longer than they would if you're playing with single attack rolls.
And the critical hits, you get far more of them, meaning they're making them much more meaningful. Looking at all this section on the right hand side, thinking the mech was dead before we had any of this.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting format. So having played it, and he just got the mechs, mostly got the mechs out of the box, we suddenly realized it's actually quite difficult to find the mechs you want in the UK. So is it supply issues, or do we all need to buy from Dwane? I mean, what's the deal?
I could smuggle some over the border for you if you want.
Don't you supply them?
Oh yeah. I run a store here. Like basically because going back a few years now, we decided we were going to do demo games. We wanted to, like, before the first Kickstarter, we decided we'd run demo games, and then that's how we established like the gaming club as well. We were doing demo games at colleges, and I wanted to get box sets in because the gaming stores weren't really supporting BattleTech back then. So that's how I started bringing BattleTech in, because nobody else was buying it in at that stage. And when we were doing demo games, I didn't see the logic in making someone fall in love with a game, and then they'll go,
and then they can't buy it.
Yeah, then you can't buy it. I'm like, well, you need to get the, so that's how it started. But yeah, in regards to distribution with the UK, I know there were previously issues, but from what I understand, things have been hashed out a bit, but it's still hard to get a hold of, which I find really odd. Like,
yeah, well, we went to our local store in Milton Keynes, War Games Workshop. It's a good place. It's recently had a big refurb. It's worth a trip. They had some stuff, but it was like they had clan mechs and they had some of these Star League mechs where one was pre-painted, and it was like 2 different types. Like, is this all there is? I mean, looking online, a lot of them, we couldn't find many places that had more than 1 or 2 of the lances. And when you played the game a little bit, you're like, you know what, I want another Warhammer. Where do I get that?
Yeah, it can be hard to get a hold of depending on the gaming store. So some gaming stores supply quite a bit of it over here. I specialize in it. Like, that's the only thing I do is just BattleTech. But I'm edge case though, because I'm like a super fan. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my problem. I was like so much of a super fan. I was like, all right, we'll get some of it in and get into people's hands. Like, but it can be like it's not like a traditional sort of war game and game company that we're used to, the likes of Games Workshop or even like Warlord Games, where they produce it themselves, because the miniatures are made in China. They're done in batch runs, so stuff will come in stock. There'll be high demand for it because people have been waiting for it. It'll probably either sell out there, or then if it's new, or after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it'll sell out, and then they do another refresh run. But the intervals between the reprints, they're getting quicker. They used to be a lot worse going back a few years, but the reprint runs, like they're going through 3 and 4 reprint runs, when previously, they didn't really get through much. Like the demand for BattleTech skyrocketed even before the Kickstarters. As soon as they were actually making it in plastics, like that's what exploded it, was people getting new sculpts and in plastic.
Because I think it was 30 quid now, isn't it, for a lance? I think
it's about that. Yeah, it's ballpark about that. Yeah,
about that. And but that's your army, right? That's
your sword. Proxy for everybody, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say a lot of the supply issues seem to be down to who your local game shop or comic shop is getting their stuff from. Like because Dwane gets his stuff through it's Brave New World in Germany, I think.
Yeah, in Germany. I imported from Germany, the Germans.
Yeah, and
I think it's Asmodee over in the UK, from what I understand. They're the distributors.
Asmodee seem to be very gun shy about ordering and reordering. This came up in the streaming from Adepticon this year, I think it was, where someone was asking about getting something in, and they basically said, "We have offered, like that's on our catalog. Asmodee can order that, and I don't know why they don't."
Right.
It's something along those lines, and it does seem to be that Asmodee are reluctant to order in something and then be stuck with the stock, so they'll do their reorders whenever, and as Dwane said, like Atlas will order stuff in and it sells out at their warehouse really quickly. They keep on doing print runs that they think are going to last a year, and they last 3 months or 6 months.
Right. So the game is continuing to grow in popularity, it seems.
Second most popular game in the US at the moment.
So if I'm playing the game and, like I said, I want another Warhammer, what am I supposed to do? What should I do to it? Help me out.
You can always buy metal.
Which brings us on to Catalyst actually just purchased Ironwind Metals for the crowd that were doing the metal miniatures. So they've recently just purchased them as well. So that's being brought in house, which is good.
Yeah.
Right.
It can be hard to get the newer metals over here. You've got Ral Partha Europe, who are based in the UK, and they produce a lot of the older minis. They haven't had anything new in stock in a long, long time. But if you're looking for older BattleTech minis at a good price, Ral Partha Europe have a huge amount of like everything from a kind of the 80s up until maybe 2005, 2006 they've got in their catalog. And they're
a different scale, aren't they?
No, they're slightly smaller, maybe. So scale was a bit of a moving target with the metal minis for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I could dig into my box of unpainted metals and pull out like allegedly 35-ton mechs that are yay big, so, kind of standing the same height as a heavy. But they've been a lot better about scale in recent years. Kind of maybe the last kind of 15, 20 years, they've been working better to have scale matching properly. And I know it's funny, I'm saying the last 15, 20 years as recent, but I'm comparing that to the prior 21 years.
Well, for those of us from the last century and a good part of it, that's okay.
Yeah.
15 years is recent.
It's that sort of thing where you go, oh yeah, 2005, that wasn't that long. Oh God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just going to say there's a company in Germany called Fantasy Welt that stocks a huge amount of Ironwind's catalog. So, if you're in the UK, you still have to pay shipping from Germany and you'll have to pay import duty because outside the EU, but it is an accessible way to get the metal minis if you prefer metal. or if you want like an individual mini, because Catalyst primarily sells in the force packs of 4 to 7 minis.
Yes. But so what you're saying is at some point, like the very first Lance packs that they released will be made available again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're going through like at least their third or fourth print runs now. So the fifth, even more. Yeah. Like there's a whole swathe of stuff that's literally just gone through another print run that's from that original Clan Invasion stuff. So like the Command Lances and your Battle Lance, and then a few of the stars as well, the Comstar boxes. That's all. A load of that has literally just come in another wave.
Right. Okay. So for anyone that's not played BattleTech and wants to try it, presumably the next opportunity to do that is at UK Games Expo. Is that right, Dwane?
Yeah, there will be BattleTech being run. Myself and Lorcan won't be running it though. We're running another game. We will be running Leviathans. So
this is the airships thing.
This is the airships game. Yes, we will be running the Leviathans game, but there is BattleTech being run by other demo agents that are there. So we will be there. We will be there running Leviathans, but there will be BattleTech as well, and people can.
I've just posted the link into the chat there, but for BattleTech, we're going to be running. We have Drafted for War, which is unfortunately already sold out. All the events we're going to be running are ticketed. So Drafted for War has sold out, which is an Alpha Strike drafting. So you get 3 salvage boxes, you pick one, you pass 2 to the next guy until everyone's got 3 mechs, and you play a 4-round tournament. We're going to be running Aces, which is the new Alpha Strike players versus an AI deck controlling the enemies, which it's going to hopefully be out at Gen Con, might be a little bit later. And that looks really exciting.
So tell us a bit more about this. This is single player BattleTech with a deck that determines AI behavior, right?
Yeah. So the first box is called Scouring Sands, and it's set in the Hinterlands, which is the very exciting part of the current storyline. The Wolves and the Jade Falcons have left the old clan occupation zones when they went to invade Terra. And there's now a power vacuum in the Jade Falcon space, and lots of micro powers have built up because the larger factions on either side of them don't have the ability to immediately rush in and conquer it right now because of their own internal circumstances. So in Scouring Sands, you play a mercenary team that are hired to get rid of these Jade Falcon diehards who've been left behind on a planet. And so it's a narrative campaign. I think there's like 28 missions in the campaign, and you play 7 of them in any given branching game. So like you finish your first adventure, and it tells you like, if you got these objectives, you go on to this adventure. If you go on to these objectives, you go on, you do this adventure. You are playing as like kind of like an RPG group almost, where you have like special abilities for your pilots. You track experience, you track repairs, all this kind of stuff. So it's a full-on campaign narrative storyline. When you're actually playing the Alpha Strike game, each person's controlling 1 or 2 mechs, and then each of the enemy computer, or each of the enemy mechs even, has a separate deck controlling its behavior based on the role on the Alpha Strike card. So you'll notice if you look at the Alpha Strike card, you've got, say, Skirmisher, Sniper, Missile Boat, Brawler, written on there. And these are kind of denoting the abilities. Yeah, exactly. Like kind of like a Missile Boat's going to have indirect fire. So you want to have that hiding at the back of the table, in cover, having someone else spot for it. A Brawler, you want to get right up in the middle, smashing faces. A Sniper, you want to have like at line of sight, but medium to long range, because it's going to have better medium long range damage than short range, that sort of thing. And so each of the decks will then play into that behavior. And then there's also a commander deck, which gives you the overall behavior of the enemy unit. So you'll have kind of like cautious or aggressive or neutral behavior patterns on each of the cards as well. And it is quite challenging. Lynn Vander are the team who've done this. They did the X-Wing Heroes of the Aturi Cluster PvE system, which was like really well received. They've done one for Star Trek as well. I can't remember the name of right now. That again was hugely popular. Worked with the Attack Wing game. They have done other bits and pieces like this for Catalyst as well, and it's all worked really well.
Sounds interesting. Sounds good. The Irish are out in force. Discos has popped in, and it's also going to be at the UK Games Expo. Excellent. So, the UK Games Expo this year, then. So, Catalyst are showing off. They're going to be at some BattleTech. There's going to be Leviathans. Is there anything else new from Catalyst for people to look at?
In terms of the BattleTech events, we're also going to be running a Hotspots Draconis Reach event. This is a book that's not out yet. Hotspots Hinterlands came out late last year. The print version has only just made it to us over here because it's sold out in the US so fast that they had no copies to put into international distribution. So we have just got the second printing of it. I think, was it last week or the week before I picked up my copy from you, Dwane?
Literally like the other week. The shipment arrived and then we had our gaming night. So literally like as soon as it came in.
Right. Yeah, I was just like, gimme. And so Hotspots Hinterlands has been hugely popular. Again, set in the same part of the universe as the Aces Scouring Sands box. And again, it's the same sort of thing. You build up your mercenary unit, you go on missions, you grow and expand, and you follow a narrative. The next book in that series is set halfway across the Inner Sphere, because our old friends, the Federated Suns and the Draconis Combine, who they are the two most popular Inner Sphere factions in BattleTech, they've been at each other's throats in another massive war over the last few years in the setting. And the border has almost calmed down, but that just means there's lots of opportunities for mercenaries to be jumping over and backwards through the no man's land in the middle. And that's where Hotspots Draconis Reach is going to be set, in the no man's land where the fighting is still intensely happening, even though there's technically a truce going on. So we're previewing a couple of the missions from that. There's a few other BattleTech events on. I can't remember exactly now what else is going on. Now, all of this, I must say, is the Catalyst demo team. Catalyst Game Labs themselves will not be at Expo this year. The tariffs, unfortunately, have meant that it is not economically viable for them to be over this year. So no
people
booth,
can come and play the game, but not buy it.
Exactly, yeah. Well, neither Aces nor Draconis Reach is on sale yet. These are preview events of upcoming products.
Cool.
We might have some Gothic there as well. I don't know if we're going to do Gothic, but we might. So for people who don't know, BattleTech Gothic is the thing that got leaked the week before Adepticon that was meant to be announced at Adepticon. And this is an alternate universe box set where it's set in 3015 as opposed to like 3025 or 3151. And it is an alternate universe where everything looks a bit more Games Workshop-y. There's lots of spikes, and the Atlas has a cape, and sometimes has
the Atlas has a cape. That's rad. I want an Atlas with a cape.
And there is.
You still not got a neck though, right?
No, it's still a bit kind of guy.
Cool.
But yeah, it's an alternate universe where things kind of went a little bit different, and most importantly, there's lots of genetic engineering happening. So you've got these things called abominations, which are a mixture of, some of them are humans that have been have had like other animal DNA put into them, so they're kind of big hulky monster guys. Some of them are like, do you remember Dino Riders?
Oh, cool. I'm going to be able to get miniatures of a dinosaur with lasers on its head.
Well, playing pieces for now, miniatures maybe. The Gothic box set comes at 8 minis, I think it is, all of which are redesigns of current BattleTech minis. So they're a little bit bigger to have a bit more detail. They're spiky, they're crenellated, they look like walking cathedrals, unlike any other mech game we might want to mention. And the Atlas in the box comes with 5 different heads and 5 different back pieces, so you can mix and match to do the different faction specific looking faces or whatever. So like the version of the Draconis Combine is sort of a Tenju mask. The Free Worlds League one has a big Pope hat. The
Cool.
Davian one, I can't remember what it has, and the Steiner one that looks more like a knight. All this kind of stuff.
Right.
The box
only
is...
here is a bit of a Steiner. Be something to look forward to.
I mean, you know, Steiner is just not as popular, unfortunately.
Well,
but
so UKG, they're putting on. It's going to be a bit. It's going to be bigger this year. There's more space, I think, and they're putting on an extra day for. Or was the Thursday thing? We've been as press. We've been invited to go on Thursday, and there's all kind of people hustling their pre-release games and so forth. Was that
yeah? They had that last year as well. They had that last year as well, like an Asmodee pre-day trade show thing,
right?
But I don't know. Our flight was delayed last year, and so we got there after everything was set up, and we kind of hung around for about an hour and then went to our Airbnb.
Right, yes. Because one of the things that was frustrating about the press pass is they insist that you go to the Thursday thing.
Oh, it's part of the stipulation of the press pass, is it?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but considering that means another night's accommodation, is like the ticket cheaper than this, mate. But because I've not been before, so for anyone that wants to say hi, I personally I'm going to be there with James Workshop Thursday, Friday. Friday is the big shopping day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
everything sells out on Friday very early.
Yeah. So we'll be there for the Thursday and Friday, and I will be taking a shift at some point on the game therapy stall because I work with them, the charity that I try to support. So I said I would, relieve them for a couple of hours at some point. So come over and say hi while you're not looking at Catalyst. What are you got anything that you're hoping to see at the Games Expo other than the friends that you only ever see at the UK Games Expo?
I'm hoping to actually find the 3D printer that does color resin pieces this year. I went looking for it last year and I couldn't find it. Because that just looks impressive. I'll probably go by TT Combat as well. I haven't played in ages, but I love Drop Zone Commander and Drop Fleet Commander, and see if anything there tickles my fancy. I managed to get their laser etched wood kit of the laser etching machines last year, and haven't assembled or painted it yet.
All right, yeah, been in a box for a year. Of course, you're obvious.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't have a pile of shame. I have a strategic plastic and metal reserve.
Oh right. I'm old school. I have a lead mountain, even though it's mostly plastic. I still call it the lead mountain.
Still called the lead mountain. Nice.
Yeah, of course. That's what it's called.
Yeah, no, at the expo itself, I think I'll check out like AK Interactive if they're there to see what paints they have and stuff. Normally I have a walk around, yourself. Like you were up at the big World War II table last year yourself and William Mike. Yeah. So I'll pop over when I get a chance and meet friends. I
don't know that Duncan's there this year. He's been really ill.
Yeah.
He wasn't at Salou. No, people haven't really heard from him very much. He's kind of gone quiet. I know him through a guy at work. He's not dead or anything.
Oh, I was going to say, hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, because his kidney thing. Have AK they've got a range of speed paints now, have they? Or was that Vallejo?
Nick was just saying there, no AK this year, but Vallejo are coming.
And such. I haven't seen AK if they have it. The latest thing I saw that AK brought out were like these paint pens.
Sharpies. Just expensive Sharpies.
They're interesting. I was trying to paint a whole mech using nothing but them, and I was like, this isn't quite. Yeah, like it's good for the old camo or doing detail, but I wouldn't.
Woolly Mike did German spot camouflage with Sharpies, and he doesn't look too bad. Yeah. It's definitely the colors are very bright. Is I'd say the only downside with it. You're not getting that kind of. You're getting quite a silky finish, and it's quite shiny. The colors are very vivid. As for a camo, you want the colors to be quite muted, really.
Yeah,
But
matte and subtle.
probably fix that with a matte varnish. But
Probably,
it didn't look bad. It was better than some of you know. If you're a mediocre painter, it's worth looking at.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Yeah, they're interesting. They're interesting.
One thing that's weird is Bandai do an airbrush for their Gundam markers. Like you load the marker into it, and it works like an airbrush.
Is this like? Do you remember there was like TV ad for markers that had like they were like you could blow on them, and then because you blow past the tip of the marker back in the day, it was like a little kid sort of forced airbrush type of thing. Is it something like that?
I don't think so. Like it
like
looks
you blow
like
the pen in, and then the air goes past, and it goes over the tip, and it just sprays the color. Is it something like that?
It looks kind of like a single action airbrush from what I remember, like kind of like the suction feed one. We used to do a Gundam club in Dublin City Comics, and one of the guys in there got it. I've been airbrushing for many years, so I can just kind of go, yeah, there's one right there. So I've just been like regular airbrushing all my model kits and my minis and everything. So I saw no need for markers or for a marker airbrush. But one of the guys tried that. I think he even had it hooked up to like a compressed air can instead of a compressor.
It works as well.
Good, yeah, definitely looking forward to. It's nice to bump because so many people go. The great thing about it is, if you're there for a couple of days, you're going to bump into people that you just wouldn't otherwise see. And in our line of work, it's good to talk to the traders, which is why I normally like going on Sunday, because people although they're a bit fagged out, it's so much quieter on the Sunday, isn't it? Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, because all the punters head off then, and so it's people are just like doing the trade sort of stuff. So
I was able to step away from the Catalyst booth for like an hour and a half last year on the Sunday and properly walk around and look at things and go look at the Vikings and everything.
Yeah. Oh, the Vikings outside.
Yeah.
With the shield wall. Yeah. Grey Primer saying Sunday afternoon is bliss. I think that's when you introduced him to me, wasn't it, Dwane?
I think so. It was UK Expo last year is just a blur to me. It's we ran a lot of Leviathan's games between myself and Mark.
Yeah.
It
was quite new then, or it was being re-released.
Re-release, it is this close to being physically out.
Oh, it's still not out.
It's still not out. So again, something that begins with T and ends in Arifs is causing issues.
Right.
So the production run is complete, and we will be running our Leviathan's events with actual production miniatures this year, as opposed to 3D printed prototypes and minis from the 2012 version, like we did last year. As I understand it, the production for the US has been shipped to the US. They fast tracked it to get it over there before the tariffs hit really badly, and it arrived in time to avoid like the 130% ones, but not like the 30% or something like that. And they're now getting their costs together to arrange for shipping. Rest of the world stuff is still in China, and they're going to be shipping direct to European, UK, Australia, and Asian hubs. So, like for the Battletech Kickstarters, what they would do is, they would ship everything to the US, then they'd break it up, and then they ship it to the regional hubs, which is what they've done for other prior Kickstarters. But they're looking to avoid that for this one. Additional logistical, etc. So hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll all have our stuff, and my house. If I'm on this here again, there'll be a kind of a stack of Leviathans minis this tall behind me because I've got nowhere else to put them.
Right, there we go. And the other thing is this weekend, for those of you in the UK, it's MCN Comic Con as well. I don't know if any of you are planning to go to that. Because of game therapy, I committed to help them out on the Sunday, and I am intending to run Dungeon Saga, which I just picked up, which is Mantic's like Hero Quest type game.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I love the kind of D&D red box echoes, of it. It's I've seen a couple of games being played. It's got loads of plastic minis in it and so forth.
I've heard it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. But the game therapy at Comic-Con is a funny one. They actually have rooms there because if a lot of neurodivergent kids, it has appealed to them,
right?
And then they get there and there's 10,000 people.
Yeah,
and it's totally sensory overload. So they have professional. They're actually there to kind of canvas for the charity, but because they're wearing a t-shirt that says game therapy, people sort of gravitate towards them in a I'm sort of panicking here, can you help me? So they do offer kind of therapeutic first aid for one of there's a room for some respite and so forth. But there'll be people sat down, just chill and paint and chat. If you just want to move away from it a little bit, and we're running some games, introductory type games as well. I'll be doing a little bit of that.
Cool.
Thought Kaiser was intending to cosplay. Well, we are in negotiations over this because they want me to wear a t-shirt, and I haven't worn a t-shirt except for bed in about 30 years. So I don't know whether I'm prepared to commit to that.
Get a little badge with the logo for your chest pockets or something.
Yeah, they kind of just wear a big ribbon, something like that. I don't know. Oh no, it's for charity. I'll put the t-shirt on, just reluctantly. So gaming wise, Dwane, what have you been up to?
I moved about 6 weeks ago, and there's finally room here where I'm sitting at the moment for setting up a hobby space. So I finally got my desk together. I think my internet problems earlier on are I reckon my Cat 5 cable probably needs replacing because I'm using Wi-Fi on a laptop now and there's no issues. So that's the sneaking suspicion I have is my poor cable in the move has bit the dust. So I'll cut a new length and I'll sort that out. But I have been busy 3D printing again because I've moved and I want to. It's sort of like the box room, so it's not fully the hobby room. I have to take into account that in-laws will come and visit, so there has to be space for a bed to be available. So straight away, I was trying to think,
you can poison them with the toxic fumes, right?
Huh?
You can poison them with the toxic fumes from the printer.
Well, I hear that's kind of frowned upon. You know what I mean? I'd be tempted to leave like the Tamiya extra tin open, but I think I'd fumigate the whole apartment block.
It's a grey area.
It's a very grey area. But I'm aware that there's a lot of 3D print accessories and stuff for holding your miniature paints, for holding tools and stuff. People buy pegboards from IKEA. So I bought a few of these, and this has brought me down the rabbit hole of trying to get my very old Ender 3 printer up and running again, so I've fallen down that rabbit hole of trying to get the printer up and running and fixed. And I've been, this one's black, so you can't see it, but I've been printing some Battletech terrain again. There's some bigger pieces, but it's currently actually propping up the laptop that I'm streaming.
Is that a tiny dropship?
It is a tiny fuel tank, so it's scaled for play. But yes, quite a lot of people think it's a dropship. But I designed this. So I designed this a few years ago. So I have my old files and buildings that I've designed. And I've been trying to get the printers up and running and print it again. And that's the tangent I'm currently on, is like replacing motherboards and tweaking motors and flow rates and E-steps and filaments. And I've fallen down that rabbit hole. I'll get out of it eventually, don't worry. But that's what I've been doing hobby-wise.
For reference, here is an actual tiny dropship.
That is a madly tiny dropship. What would you use that for?
This is for the fleet scale game of Battletech for space combat. That's a Union class dropship.
There's a fleet game for Battletech?
There's a fleet game for Battletech.
Yeah.
Here is a warship. This is a Fox class Corvette, painted in Word Blake colors because they captured a couple. You can see I've got my little Blakist logo on the top there. But yeah, there are two scales of space combat game. One primarily fighters and dropships, the other one warships, dropships, fighter squadrons, and the like. But yeah,
And is that an old FASA game that you need to do some necromancy to get all the rules for? Or
the rules for the fighters and dropships are in Total Warfare, which is the current main core rule book for like all combat and BattleTech, and the fleet scale stuff is in Strategic Operations, Aerospace something or other. Strategic Operations is the main name of the book anyway. Strategic Operations Advanced Aerospace. That's it, and that is all the rules for faster than light ships, warships, space stations. It has the most fun rules variant, which is the high-speed close pass. The idea being that you've got two ships that have been accelerating at 1G for, a few days. So they're going at maybe 0.2, 0.3 of light speed towards each other. And so they fire. And energy weapons hit instantaneously because their speed of light are close to it. Missiles and ballistic weapons are a little bit slower, but they're still going faster because they're accelerating. And the whether you're doing a stern chase or advancing towards each other will affect how much damage they do because you're getting your velocity put together. And it tends to be just your ships go like this, and one of them might be alive afterwards. There is a note at the end of the rules, which is one of the best pieces of BattleTech rules, which is if you want to more accurately simulate this damage, especially if you're going a higher percentage of the speed of light, get 2 crosscut shredders, drop the record sheets into one each into them at the same time. Whichever comes out last wins. But both ships are destroyed.
There's a way of arbitrating the decision.
Yeah.
All right. At least you get a result. All right. Well, I think that'll probably do us for tonight. I think, lads. Are we going to go for a curry on Friday, Dwane, after the game?
Yeah. We'll see if we can sort something else. That curry house we went to last year was decent, so we'll try.
You reckon we'll go back there?
Yeah. The food was brilliant. Like, it was just very busy. So I'm like, hey, let's try and book a table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I like Grey Primer's comment there. I've discovered that if I ask in BattleTech, is there literally any word? The answer is usually yes. There is a rule book called Tactical Operations. The joke is there is a rule for it in there.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Once we close down the show, I'm going to see if Gwen can fix me up with some mechs, because I know he opened 1 million of them blind boxes. And he's probably drowning in everything that he's got 20 of, the common ones.
I might have a few.
Yeah.
But there might be IKEA boxes full of my grey mechs, and I'm like, I need to get through some of them. Yeah.
The strategic plastic reserve.
In a game where you normally play with maximum 2 models, and you've got hundreds and hundreds of them.
Look, you're talking to a man who decided to collect every orc ever made for 40k at some stage. It's like reasonable amounts of miniatures just don't exist. I pick a faction or a game, and I'm just like, yeah, this is me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have put 60, 70 units on the table in games of regular BattleTech.
I know that the lad in my school that plays orcs mainly does it so that at school he can turn around and say knobs and get away with it.
I mean, me and the rest of the war bosses do still crack knob jokes at each other. I mean, it's consistent. They don't grow out of it. Like,
he's licensed to make knob jokes during the gaming night. I know that's why he does it. Of course he does. All right, lads.
They say that he screams "wow." To be honest with you, that's usually the reason.
Oh my god, that was the thing that took me a little bit by surprise at Idic Beer's thing last year. So Idic Beer does this kind of YouTuber invitational in a marquee outside his house in the summer. James and I are going back this year, and I've not been in a club playing Warhammer recently, and so they get that once per game. They get their war.
Yeah. So
then I'm just playing my game, rolling, and I said I hit on 3s, and then Steve-O, who was about a foot behind me, just Rah! And everybody cheers, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, previous codexes may have encouraged players to scream "wow," so it kind of it lives on, I think, with some of the more seasoned players.
Yeah, I just saw John Batcher there mention elementals in the chat. And just to show off, these aren't elementals, but they are battle armor.
Yeah, we need some elementals, Dwane. You can fix us up, right?
I have some elementals. I think I've at least 1 or 2 stars of elementals left. Yeah, off the top of my head.
Yeah, these guys are the metal minis, by the way.
Right, they're the Alpatha ones.
Ironwind, but yeah.
Ironwind.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that was it. It's always good to have you on the channel, Dwane, and you bring new people along as well, which is great. Love to meet you. Look, and what you didn't say, you told me before the show, is you write BattleTech fiction.
I do.
So do you want to wave anything at people that they might want to buy while you're here?
I can wave things. This is the most recent issue of Shrapnel, the official BattleTech magazine. My first ever short story is published in this issue, and I've also got an article which is a profile on a mech company in the late Dark Age, early Ilklan era in here. Shrapnel's generally a good read. Lots of fiction, lots of articles, lots of interesting stuff every issue. And then I also write pilot cards. The Davian Cavalry Lance is the first force pack which I have written for, and it's only just been recently released. So there are 8 pilot cards in here, and I wrote 7 of them. The coffee guy was not me, unfortunately, which is everyone's favorite, but you win some, you lose some. It's still kind of cool to get published.
It absolutely is. Well done and well deserved, I'm sure. All right, thank you. Always good to talk BattleTech. Always good to talk orcs as well, but we're not going to be here for another hour. So we'll have you back. After Expo, you guys okay to come back and we'll talk about kind of post UK?
Yeah, we'll do a post Expo. Yeah, that sounds.
We'll do that. And anybody else that we meet, we'll try and drag them along and sort of talk about your experiences. So I think a lot of people, like show reviews. You know, when they didn't get to go. See what did I miss? What was good there?
Yeah. There's a couple of YouTube channels that I like where I just watch their con reports. I've no interest in any of their other material, but I'll watch them, their videos walking around the floor of a con and what they did and everything like that.
Yeah. And it looks like Grey Primer is going to be there as well, I assume. Discourse said she was going to be there. So there's going to be loads of great people there. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.